Halo, Assalamualaikum, Bang Boy. Apakah suara kami terdengar dari luar? Halo, Bang Boy. Halo, halo, Bang Boy.
Yes.
Halo Fuad. Suara
Apakah suara Bang Fuad terdengar di ruangan Bang?
suara Fuad terdengar jelas.
Agak garuk-garuk suaranya Bang. Apa tuh Bang?
Suara terdengar jelas.
Ah, iya. Berarti suara dari luar aman ya?
Aman.
Interaktif.
Kalau laptop Iko yang PowerPoint atau apa Iko?
Iko yang maksudnya Bang?
Apa yang tampil di YouTube gini?
Di
Kamera.
YouTube kini tampil kamera.
Kalau share screen saya kayak
Yuk,
kalau
Bang.
yap,
Aduh, lupa Fuad apa? Kak Fuad tolong minta ke LV sih, minta tolong dak.
apa tuh?
Sertifikat sama apanya.
IP sertifikat.
Ya, biarlah Pak telepon kayak Pi kok.
Oke, Pak.
Sertifikat sama bingkainya, Pak, pinjam saya bingkai lain loh. Berarti lah aman soro ya Bang ya?
Aman.
Soalnya
Oh,
lag ini Bang.
untuk tampil di YouTube Eko perlu eh, yang kamera aja atau share screen YouTube? Share screen apa?
Bisa share screen Bang, share screen wajib share screen.
Oke, Fuad.
Oke, siap Bang.
Oke.
Izin Pak live ya Bang.
Siap, siap, buat. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Oke, suara masuk, Boy. Oke. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang online ada terdengar suara saya?
Ada, Prof.
Ada, Prof.
Dengar,
Alhamdulillah.
Prof.
Terdengar, Prof.
Oke, kita buka acara ini. Kita ulang lagi ya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah bil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Allahumma shalli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Mari sama kita bersyukur kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Rahmat dan hidayahnya kita bisa bersama sore hari ini atau siang hari ini untuk bisa bersama melaksanakan satu kegiatan akademik kita di program Dr. Studi Pembangunan di Pasca Sarjana ini, yaitu workshop penulisan ilmiah. Ya, ini workshop yang pembukaan pertama ya, nanti akan ada lanjutannya. Salawat dan salam tak lupa juga kita panjatkan pada junjungan besar kita Nabi besar Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Allahumma shalli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Berbahagia kita hari ini ya bisa mendapatkan kesempatan bertemu dengan salah seorang narasumber ya invited speaker di Forum International Interdisciplinary Conference on Green Development in Tropical Region yang hari ini juga masih berlangsung sejak kemarin, yaitu Associate Professor Dr. Nolila Muhammad Nawi. I'm sorry. Ya, saya perkenalkan, beliau adalah dosen di University Pertanian Putra Malaysia. Dulu namanya Universitas Pertanian Malaysia ya. Sekarang sudah lama berganti menjadi University Putra Malaysia. Ya, pendidikan beliau S1-nya Agricultural Economic, Agribisnis ya, from University Putra Malaysia, S2-nya juga, S3-nya dari Curtin University di Australia. Ya. Alhamdulillah beliau bersedia bersama kita untuk bisa share setidaknya kepada mahasiswa ini ya, bagaimana tip and trick dalam penulisan ilmiah. Jadi semoga Bapak Ibu mahasiswa ini tidak cuma merasakan stres dari dosen yang mengajarnya saja, tapi coba dengarkan untuk bisa memahami sebenarnya yang kita harapkan itu universal ya, semua memang seperti itu. Ya, nanti bisa ditanyakan leluasa saja ya, relax ini ya, jangan seperti kuliah ini sebenarnya senior and junior, sebenarnya lebih kepada senior and junior ya. Jadi bisa bertanya sambil jalan ya, dari presentasi, interupsi boleh nanti ya, mungkin interaktif ya, bisa interaktif juga, tidak seperti seminar itulah, tidak seperti seminar, rileks saja. Ya, alhamdulillah di sini yang sudah hadir ya, yang online sudah berapa ini, 20 ya, 20-an. Yang offline masih ada 4 orang, mudah-mudahan nanti yang berjanji datang offline juga bisa hadir ya. Ini yang hadir tidak hanya di program Dr. Studi Pembangunan, saya lihat yang hadir online ya. Dari prodi studi ilmu pertanian juga ada tadi nampak ya. Ya, yang S2 dan S3 juga ada. Nanti kalau ada pertanyaan dari yang online, silakan raise hand saja ya. Mudah-mudahan saya bisa deteksi. nanti saya beri kesempatan. Kalau yang offline ya tinggal ketuk mic-nya atau tunjuk tangan juga bisa ya bertanya atau bereaksi. Waktu kita ya 1 atau 1,5 jam mungkin ya kita manfaatkan ya di kekosongan waktu narasumber kita ini. Saya rasa itu pembukaan dari saya ya. Saya bisa jadi moderator juga, bisa juga menambahkan pertanyaan juga untuk bisa memperjelas saja kalau ada yang kurang ya. Nah, jadi bisa interaktif, kita rileks ya. Saya rasa demikian. Pak Wakil Direktur 1 ini bidang akademik, Dr. Ruspidah, mau kasih pengarahan? Cukup? Ya, diskusi saja nanti ya. Oke, silakan Associate Professor Dr.
Okay. Saya buka dulu. Okey, terima kasih Prof. Rudi. Assalamualaikum dan selamat petang semua. Boleh dengar tak?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dengar, Bu.
Okey.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So salam perkenalan semua. So macam Pak Rudi bagi tahu tadi macam our sessions is basically very informal. Okay, so during the presentation you can stop me anytime to raise question or to share or to give feedback. Okay, during the presentation. So as mentioned by Prof. Rudi just now, so I'm Nolila Muhammad Nawi from, okay, let me share my slide. Okay. Share. Okay. Bisa nampak enggak? Okay. So I'm Nolila Muhammad Nawi from the Department of Agribusiness and Bioresource Economics, Faculty of Agriculture, University Putra Malaysia. So actually, when Bu Cindy asked me whether I'm able to share an experience or knowledge related to pasca siswaza, postgraduate journey and academic writing. And then of course I said, yeah, why not? Why not? It's good for me to talk or to speak to the other students beside my students, my own students, from UPM. Okay, so basically as I mentioned earlier, so our session today is a bit santai. Santai di sini panggil santai juga. Santai. Okay. So of course, if you look at the first slide, so my presentation will be 2 parts. Okay. The first one I will share about my own postgraduate journey with my students, and then of course the second part we're going to touch a little bit on academic writing. Okay. So this is me. This is me. So this is as mentioned by Prof. Rudi just now, I'm graduated for my PhD S3 di Curtin University. So this is basically my jubah or my robe. Toga or called toga. Okay, so this is basically the robe from my university. Normally for dosen, we normally purchase our own robe because during wisuda, during wisuda, normally we can wear our own robes lah instead of using the university one. Because using university one, we have to go and borrow and then bring back. So it's easy to have our own. Okay. So this is basically this picture was taken during convocation in UPM in 2022 or 23, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So when we talk about postgraduate journey, so I'm going to share a little bit. Okay, so this is basically the number of postgraduate students that I have supervised who already graduated and still ongoing. Okay, so if you can see from this table here, so for PhD students under my supervision as main supervisor, I have already graduated 4 PhD students. And then for master student, I have already graduated 10 master student. And then as a co-supervisor, 13 PhD already graduated and 15 master student. All this by research, because in UPM, we now moving towards by kerja khusus, by coursework. Tu panggil apa ya di sini? Master by coursework. By coursework. Okay, we are in the process of having master by coursework. But at the moment, most of our program by research. So as you can see here, so currently I have 6 ongoing PhD student and only 1 We don't know the trend in UPM nowadays. Okay, less and less number of students who want to do master. But for PhD, the number is still stable because most of our PhD students come from overseas. For example, like the student that I having now, 6 PhD student, one from Nigeria, one from China, one from Bangladesh, one from Indonesia, and 2 from Malaysia at the moment. And the one who already graduated, all from four Rizwan, all four from Malaysia. Okay, but for master student, I have a few lah from Afghanistan that already graduated under me. Afghanistan, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Bangladesh no, under S2. Afghanistan, Nigeria, China pun not at the moment. And then from local students. And then of course, when we talk about postgraduate studies, it's not easy. Is it easy or not easy? Of course, I mean, sometimes we say that postgraduate study is, I mean, PhD, especially PhD or master. Of course, I mean, when we talk about S2, as a docent, I mean, during Viva Voce and during examination, we are not very strict. Okay, but normally for PhD, S3, during the seminar or during the Viva Voce, of course, it's a bit stricter because you're going to carry your doctorate. So we expect for PhD student, you have something different in you once you finish your PhD. Because when people call you Dr. What's your name, ma'am? Vidya. Tati. So people will call you Dr. Tati after this. So of course, I mean, it comes with responsibility. Okay, that's why I mean, during PhD study is basically for you to nurture yourself as well. Okay, so this is the example of thesis from 2 of my PhD student. So this one, 2017, this is my first PhD that graduated under me. I finished my PhD in 2009. So it took me nearly how many years? 8 years to get first PhD student that graduated. It's not easy. Even the journey for the docent, for the lecturers to get the first PhD graduate student is not easy. Okay, because sometimes when we just finish our PhD, not so many students want to do PhD with us because they say, oh, new lecturer, not much experience. So that's why if you can see from the table, I have more master student graduated under me. And then of course, as a supervisor itself, we also learn from supervising degree students, I mean S1, okay, dissertation, doing their dissertation, and then continue with S2. And then of course, I mean, we, as a docent, we also have to gain knowledge. And then because what we have experienced during our own PhD is not much. Of course, I mean, we learn a lot, but still when we go back and become a lecturer, so we some sort of need to have more knowledge. How many of you are academician here? I mean, you do your S3, but at the same time, you are lecturers at your own university. How many? 3 of them. Okay, in Zoom, I assume there's also a lot. No, not a lot. That docent, because the one under me that currently doing her PhD from Gajah Mada, she also a docent in Gajah Mada. And then the other one under me from University Technology Malaysia, she also docent there. And then from China is not. Nigeria, the one who under me from Nigeria is also docent from Nigeria. That one from Malaysia working in private sector, but mostly people who continue their S3 involved in academic line. So that's why, I mean, we expect you to be like ready to go back and then supervise the students. Okay, so that's why during this 4 years or maybe 5 years, so this is basically the journey for you to nurture yourself. And then like this one, I think this one is this thesis that graduated in 2022 is the latest one, the student that finished her PhD under me lah. And then this year, my PhD student already having his Viva Voce for the master and PhD student. It's just that when we talk about postgraduate student, of course, I mean, you have to fulfill certain requirement, isn't it? Which is like you need to have publication, correct or not, for you to graduate. So that's why I go to the next slide, what to expect as a master or PhD candidates. So of course, the first one, you want to finish your study on time, or we call it GOT. Here also called GOT, graduate on time. Because in UPM, if you graduated on time, meaning that for master, for example, you have to get your senat letter, not just go to Viva, but got your senat letter saying that you already going to be awarded the degree. Okay, within semester 4, meaning that 2 years. So if you're able to get your awarded degree award letter for degree conferment within the 4 semester, so for master, you meaning that you are graduated on time. For PhD, 7 semester or 8 semester, not just got the letter saying that, okay, you are already been awarded the degree, not just like go to Viva and then do your correction, no. And then so you need to fulfill all the requirements. And then when we talk about, of course, I mean, all the students, when they come to start their study, they will tell, Doctor, I have to finish on time, because especially for students who got scholarship, because we know that now in Malaysia or in Indonesia, because my students also from Indonesia, the government is very strict. They also give you maximum until 4 years only. Like last time, they can give more and more. But now, I mean, Malaysia, Indonesia, not enough money from the government. So they just give maximum to 4 years. And then, of course, in certain cases, they will not give you until 4 years, only 3, only 6 semester, 3 years. But of course, I mean, in UPM, sometimes we tell the sponsor that our minimum, our not maximum, our degree go for to up 4 years. So sometimes the sponsor agree to that. So they will give the duration until 4 years. But of course, I mean, whether you like it or not, you have to finish within 4 years. I mean, during my time, of course, I mean, during Prof. Rudy time, the government, of course, I mean, they give us until 4 years, but they're not really strict lah as compared to nowadays. Okay. So of course, I mean, to get all this, to finish your study on time, there are certain things that you as a student needs to do, which I'm going to discuss later. Okay. And then of course, I mean, to get GOT, graduate on time, or to finish on time, of course, you need to fulfill the published journal articles as required. For example, in UPM, for master student, you need to publish or accepted. Your paper must be published or accepted 1 article in citation index journal, especially Scopus lah. We are talking about Scopus, okay? And then for PhD students, you need to publish 2 articles, 1 published or 1 accepted. Accepted actually already can, even in UPM for me, for example, the paper, we received a letter saying that our paper is accepted for publication in December. I can claim that accepted paper as my output, but I cannot claim again for next year lah, because I already claimed that paper for 2024 output. So, or 2025 output. So I cannot claim again, because if let's say I put again, it's already come out, the system pop up, you already claim for this one. But meaning that even though the paper is accepted, so we also as a docent can claim that as our output for that year. Okay. And then of course for PhD student, so either publish 1 article and or accepted 1 article, but for PhD 2 articles. And then of course when I speak to Prof. Rudy, these things, okay, the requirements for publication even in UPM last 10 years is not compulsory, okay? But when the university needs to reach for their own KPI, ranking and so on, and then some students, after you finish, you didn't even bother to publish. And then as a lecturer, sometimes us, we do not have enough time to look back and then to do it. So that's why we need students normally to work together to do the publication. And then this has become a compulsory, a requirement at the graduate school level. So in UPM, everything is compulsory. Even Prof. Rudy told me last time in this university, only certain faculty or certain departments making this as a requirement. But as time goes by, of course, it become the university level punya decision lah to make sure that publication become requirement. And then in UPM, if you got what we call it graduate research assistant, meaning that you get income, you get apa gaji ataupun salary from the university. You have to publish in JCR journal, not Scopus, JCR, which is the higher ranking level lah. So this is basically the things that the students need to fulfill. Even one of my students, he got I hire him from what we call as student SGRA, student graduate research assistant from the grant. So the requirement of the grant also need to publish in JCR journal. Okay, so this is the things that I know is sometimes quite exhausting. Okay, to go for, because we know the rejection rate for this very good journals is very high. Sometimes we become like feeling very how is it frustrated. Okay, keep being rejected. Okay, so I also going to share about that later. But do you have any questions so far before I proceed? So far so good. So far so good. Okay, please do not get sleepy. Okay. Okay, so when we talk about the previous one, okay, finish your study on time and then do your publication as required. Of course, this is the things that you need to avoid as a postgraduate student. Okay, so of course, the first one is we are talking about the ability to work dependently. Okay, so of course, here I put unable to work independently and entirely dependent on the supervisor. Of course, I mean, I've been supervising so many students. There are good students, there are not so good students, we can call it. The one that can work independently, dependently, we can see. Okay, but some of the students we discuss and then it seems like they really understand what we are discussing about. And then when they go back and then we ask to meet again, the improvement only 10%, 20%. So this is normally the students who cannot finish on time lah. So this is from my experience. So I always tell my student, you know better about your research, okay? Because this is also what my supervisor told me last time. Because when I did my PhD, my supervisor has so many students, and then when he come and discuss with me, I said, oh, he know everything, this supervisor, this professor, he knows everything. It seems like everything he knows. And then he told me, no, I do not know everything. But that's why I'm asking you question. Okay, you know better about your research. It says that you need to be able to justify about why you do this, why you do that. But when they when we discuss with him, when I discuss with him, it feels to me like, oh, he know everything. Okay, so this is also what happening now. Once we, become a lecturers and then having students under us, so this is what happened lah. So that's why we can see that whether the students is good enough or not good enough. But of course, this is beside all this, of course, everything as a Muslim is luck is another thing lah, or we call it what, doa and something like that. Okay. So of course, the first qualities attributes that need to be have by, especially for PhD student. For master students, I'm not really critical about this because even when you go for Viva Voce, okay, the way that the examiners do the questioning, do the interaction during the session is not really strict as compared if you are doing your PhD. So that's why normally, based on my experience, when I supervise students, of course, the emphasis will be given more to PhD students as compared to master student. We're not saying that master student is not important, Prof. It's just that the time or the way that we do this, the criticalness of the discussion is we giving more emphasis to PhD students normally. Okay. And then we want to make sure that our PhD student able to work dependently, not dependently, independently. Okay. Able to work independently on your own, not like you have some problem, you come to see, have some problem, you come to see. But now I have one student from China. I'm not saying that she's not good. It's just that maybe because of the language barrier, okay? When we discuss and then she come back to me, I'm not really understand, especially now she's in the process of developing questionnaire and then we have discussion. And then she told me, because we have online discussion, because actually we want to finalize the questionnaire because I already seen a few times. And then of course, when we have the committee meeting with the other supervisory committee, with the other members, and then the other members still like, feels like, I mean, some of the things is still lacking. So we give her advice. And then she texts me saying that I do not really understand what we are discussing about, because our English is maybe, I mean, she's not in front of us doing, but for me online is still okay, isn't it? But this is basically the things when we talk about working independently. So I don't know, because she's planning to come back to Malaysia and then have a discussion. So maybe I need to put more time to discuss with her. And then language barrier, of course, is one of the thing. Okay, when we talk about supervision, it can lead to students not able to work dependently and independently due to the language barrier. But we are trying to mean, of course, I mean, you're going to ask me, of course, UPM have, I mean, like language, we using IELTS or TOEFL, okay, for the student to come. But sometimes the student, they're able to write, but they're not able to give or to express their ideas during the conversation, because this is very important. Because if they understand what we are saying, so it's easily for them to apa, memahami and then to translate what we have discussed into action. But sometimes it's not happening. So this is among the things when we talk about language barriers. So that's why I mean, now in UPM, there's lots of students from China coming in to do their PhD. Even at my department, we receive quite a lot number of PhD students from China at the moment, Prof. Okay, but it's just that from my experience, due to language barriers, sometimes not really willing to to accept. Okay, so that's why sometimes we need to do, I mean, like interview instead of, I mean, the normal. I mean, for undergraduate pun at S1, we basically put extra effort to do interview, because sometimes their English certificate is okay. But when, because maybe I don't know whether they pay for it or something like that. But when we ask them question during the interview session, they're not able to give feedback or something. So this is why, I mean, language barrier is something that also can hinder the progress. And then of course, the number two shows no improvement in knowledge or skill throughout the study period. So basically, it's related to number one lah. Okay, due to language barrier, due to entirely dependent to the supervisor. So you cannot improve so much as compared if you learn a lot on your own. And then of course, I mean, PhD actually is very focused. It's just that even though it's very focused, but we need to go into detail. So this is where the headache comes. Okay, especially when you want to develop your framework, for example. So, and then the first question, your theory is based on which theoretical framework? Okay, when you want to develop your conceptual framework, isn't it? So that's normally the question. So which theory that you base on? And then sometimes I don't know which theory that's suitable for my study. So this is where you really need to, I mean, show your capability or your skills to understand better. And then of course, now we are having issues with AI. Okay, so that's why even though sometimes we can receive the students' work very good, so that's why we need to have like Q&A session to make sure that they know what they are doing. Okay, because sometimes it's easy. I mean, when you write something and then you ask AI to improve it to you, so they can make it very well, very good. And then, but whether you understand or not, that's another story. Okay. And then, of course, another thing is basically lack progress in language proficiency and communication ability. So this is what, as I explained just now, lah, with my student from China, for example. And then for Nigeria student, they are very good. Okay, their English, we have no problem in terms of English. It's just that for Nigeria student, they're not really very good in using a computer or laptop. Okay, we have to tell them how to make slide presentation, for example. And then this is the things lah. I once asked my student, why you don't really good in using laptop, especially to prepare your PowerPoint slide, for example. They told me because in their country, they write and then they give to this like center or shop. Okay, so the shop will do everything for them and then they pay. They don't have that capacity. But of course, I mean, nowadays, when they come to UPM, they say they learn a lot because lots of presentation and then they need to prepare a lot. So this is among the things when we talk about the challenge in supervising students, okay? But of course, I mean, when we talk about doing PhD, not only your ability to speak, for the ability for you to give ideas, but at the same time, we also want to see how you prepare your slide, your work is basically very critical. Okay. And then of course, the next one is about demonstrate no significant change in critical thinking or reasoning capability. Actually, doing PhD, I always tell my student, you must be able to give justification to this, to that. Okay. For example, the student from China that I see just now, the first time she presenting her proposal, she want to do something related the adoption of technology among tea farmers in China, in Anzi, China. And then when she present to us, and technology is very big. So what do you mean with technology? Okay. And then she tried to change to smart, smart intelligent, smart intelligent, apa ya, lupa pula. Smart intelligent something lah, smart farming intelligent or something lah, the system that already available in China, and then we want to see about the adoption. And then last time after we discussed, and then she feels like it's not easy for her to do that, and then she texts me, and then she said, can I change from technology to organic tea farming? I said, why you want to change? You're already in your 4th semester. You keep changing. So when you're going to finish? Okay, because everything is already clear with her, with her focus topic, okay, on technology. And then she choose one technology related to tea farming in China. And then now, when she feels like she's stuck, and then she do not understand about what we really want, and then she want to change to organic farming. And then I said, why you want to change? The one that you present previously is already okay. Okay, it's just that she doesn't really confident, Prof. So this is among the things. The student keep changing things, also give headache to the supervisor. Okay, so that's why you need to really have, able to demonstrate the critical thinking. Okay, give justification. If let's say, because as I said earlier, you know better about your research. As long as we feel like the supervisory committee feels like what you give, what you justify is good enough, and then we can relate with what you are doing, so it's okay. But sometimes the students not confident, because some students, we ask them to do, okay, why not you do like this? Okay, I will follow. No, you don't have to follow straight away. This is just a suggestion. I also don't know whether what I'm suggesting is correct or not. So this is where you have to go back and then check whether what I'm saying is true or not. So this is among the things that the students need to have the critical thinking or reasoning capabilities. Okay, so this is among the things that we need to keep in mind lah. And then another one is about struggles to make sound and timely decision. So this is also related to what I have just shared with my Chinese student just now. So when she got stuck, and then she doesn't have like, it's like, oh, maybe my topic is not good enough. Maybe this is not okay. And then she want to change. And then she already in the 4th semester. And then she told me she want to finish early, because they told me in China, they have certain age limitation for you to find job. If let's say you're not able to get your PhD by 35, for example, so it's not easy for you to get job when you finish your study. So she keep telling me, I have to finish early. I have to finish early. I said, how come you can finish early if you still not able to justify what you are doing or really understand about what you are doing? Okay, so this is also the things that need to be taken into consideration. And then last one that needs to be avoided as a postgraduate student, whether you are doing your S2 or S3, but of course, it is more critical for S3 lah. Lacks the quality and mindset required to be an effective research leader, especially the one who going to go back and then become a docent. Okay, the one who works with the government or private companies, of course, you also need to show your qualities in terms of research, but not so much as compared if you are in academic. Okay, in academic. So of course, this is among the things that as a postgraduate students, you need to show this quality, so that this is also related to what I said earlier lah. During this time, we want to nurture you to become better, so that when people call you Dr. Tuti tadi, Tati, Dr. Tati, so people, oh, Dr. Tati looks really different after she finishes study, her PhD. But of course, this is a learning process, but we want to make sure that you able to speak better, you able to give better ideas when you finish your study so that people can see or people can say, oh, okay, that's one case. Okay, this is true story as well. I'm the committee for this one student. He actually the officer from one of the research organization in Malaysia. I cannot say the name, okay? And then the students actually, as a committee member, when he give presentation, we always like doesn't really satisfied. Even for during his comprehensive exam, he have to present actually in UPM. In here, you also have comprehensive exam for PhD. Okay, actually, student will be given 2 times for you to pass your comprehensive. For certain students, we fail them first time, and then actually we put like non-recorded exam for oral. Normally they pass their written because in UPM you have to pass both. You pass your written exam and then continue with oral. So both have to be passed lah for you to say that you oral only. Okay, we have both. Okay, written and oral. So normally for the written question will be prepared by the committee members, and then during the oral we invite beside the committee members we invite two. We call it as external, but from the department or from UPM lah, whichever that based on the area of the study. Okay, not from outside UPM, within UPM or within the department. Okay, but of course, I mean, for certain student, and then like this student, I think we give him like until 4 times. Okay, the first time fail, second time unrecorded, third time unrecorded, the fourth time we pass him. But of course, I mean, even though we pass him, because sometimes we doesn't feel like very okay if we fail the student during CE. Of course, I mean, in the US, lots of our, not lots, a few of our staff that go and then continue their study in the USA, and then they come back without a PhD because they fail their comprehensive exam. Of course, we do not want to be like strict very like that lah, because it is more like the process of for you to evolve or for you to show your capabilities. But for like this student, we give him 4 times. But until actually he already submitted his thesis for Viva Voce. But when I speak to his supervisor also doesn't feel confident. But we feel like we already tried our best to make sure that he able to get his PhD. But in case during the Viva Voce session, he not able to answer, he not able to give justification, he doesn't show capabilities as PhD student, so we just berserah lah, okay? Berserah, okay? Because we are trying our best. Because when we talk to the friends or the other officers at the same organization as that student, because normally in the government office, we know each other sometimes, okay, Prof? So we ask how the student at the organization, at his workplace. Of course, I mean, people say, not very good. And then we sometimes say, how he going to go back if he got his PhD and then not able to talk, not able to speak very well. So of course he bring UPM's name, but we say berserah sajalah. Okay, we already tried our best to help the student, to nurture the student. But of course, I mean, from the day one, he started his PhD until he submits it, of course, we can see the improvement. It's just that we are expecting more. But of course, I mean, due to his early self, so this is that much we can help him, okay, to get his PhD. So whatever that, whether he able to carry the title or not, kita berserah sajalah. But of course, I mean, we want him to make us proud, not like, oh, UPM, something like that. Okay, so this is among the things when we talk about the journey of having PhD or getting PhD students. Okay, so it's not easy. So of course, I mean, Prof. Rudy have lots of students, so you get headache, Prof. But of course, I mean, that's why no hair. But you can see mine lah because I'm wearing tudung. Okay, but this is among the things when we talk about supervising students. I mean, whether it's okay or not okay. Okay. I have to be quick because already. So when we talk about PhD journey, so that's why I said, remember, okay, you know better about your research, not your supervisor. I always say this to my student, Prof, because this is what my supervisor said to me. Okay, because the student sometimes If it's like, because when we give ideas, we give suggestions, say, okay, Pra, I follow you. No, no, do not follow me. You know better. This is just my comments. This is just my suggestion. So you have to remember, okay? You know better about your research, not Prof. Rudy, okay? He just can give comments, can ask you question, to ask you give justification, but everything is depend on you, okay? And then of course, you have to also remember your journey is unique. My journey is different from Prof. Rudy. My journey is different from you. Okay, so that's why you need to decide how to make it the best learning and living experience at UNAT or anywhere, okay, like UPM or anywhere as a postgraduate student. So that's why normally we as student like in UPM, we have like 4 PhD, they have 3 seminars, okay? Proposal, and then progress, and then lastly the exit seminar or the final version. It's just that now in UPM, because we have to fulfill the requirement of MyRA, we call it like Malaysian accreditation quality, because some of the university, they doesn't really require student to do all the seminar. And then sometimes because some student, they say, why in UPM has so many seminar, it's not easy for us to get PhD. So now we also change. So this progress and exit become like elective, not wajib anymore. Last time is wajib. And then, so this is what happening lah. So this is also, I mean, like, it's good for the student, but sometimes it's not good for the supervisor because sometimes students do everything last minute because you don't have any more seminar. So last time, if you had seminar, whether you like it or not, you have to prepare for that. So now, and then even for classes, for subject, so it's only compulsory in UPM to take research method only for master and PhD student. So if you want to take other subject, it depends. It become elective. If your supervisor asks you to take, and then you can take. If not, only research method is required. We are doing this because we want to compete with other universities. Because this is the reality lah when we talk about academic, when we talk about universities. I think it's the same in Indonesia, because sometimes if we do not follow the trend, so we will be left behind. Because sometimes student, I know some of you, I just want to get PhD. I do not bother whether I learn so much or I learn little. As long as I get PhD, I can get better, better profession, better title. So it's enough. Okay. So that's why, I mean, if most of the student thinks like that, they will go to the university that offer them, I mean, not, we do not say that easy, but maybe easier as compared to what we have offered. So that's why to compete, we have to follow the trend as well. And then, because that's basically the requirements, the basic requirements. So why we bother to give extra requirements, I mean, to make the process become more complicated. And then, of course, I mean, we want to make sure we're able to get students as well. Okay. Okay, so this is some of the postgraduate moments. Okay, so the first picture is basically, this is my second PhD student. Okay, this is my second PhD student, graduated under me. So this is during her Viva Voce session. And then the second picture is basically the one who wearing the uniform is our staff. Okay, because he already become a lecturer, because last time in UPM, even you have master, you can be promoted as lecturer, not senior lecturer, but lecturer. But nowadays in UPM, no longer lah. If you do not have PhD, you cannot be a lecturer. But because he was appointed in 2001 or something, so he able to to get a lecturer post. But of course, I mean, in UPM nowadays, all the lecturers need to have PhD. So this is during his Viva Voce session, I think in 2002 as well. Okay. So all the others is basically our department members lah. And then of course for PhD in UPM, we have to have one external examiner from outside of Malaysia. But now, since last year, I think we can invite external examiners for PhD from local university, as long as the lecturer must be professor or associate professor level lah. Okay, but last time for PhD only from overseas, but for master, of course, local university. So we also change. And then the next one is basically, this is my third PhD student, Farhana, from Bangladesh. So this is during the holding ceremony at our faculty. So we are now having holding. So before the actual wisuda, so we have this holding ceremony at our faculty. So this is some of the moments for the student as well as for the supervisors to appreciate all the hard work that we work together. Okay, and then of course this is the moments that the student normally await. Okay, so the first one is award of degree letter, as I mentioned just now. So if you get this letter, meaning that you finish your study, even though the convocation is still not there, but basically we can already call you doctor lah. Okay, and then of course this is the example of the thesis from your hard work that you have worked so hard to get through it. Okay, so this is some of the proudest moment, Prof, as a supervisor. So this is what we are waiting for the students, okay, having your degree and then able to go back to work. For example, like this student, my Nabila, okay, my niece, she's now working. Actually, when she continue her PhD, she doesn't really attach with any university. And then I think last 2 years, she was appointed as a lecturer at University Technology Malaysia in Johor, UTM. Okay, and then Farhana is basically she's an officer with Bangladesh government. Okay. Okay, now we go to the second part. Any question, or before? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Profesor Nolila. Ya, saya bahasa Indonesia biar hal yang penting bisa digambarkan oleh Prof. Nolila. Walaupun kelihatannya memang berat mungkin ya dalam konteks tuntutannya mempublikasikan, tetapi kalau diikuti dengan sebuah proses yang benar, ya pasti tercapai ya. Ada 6 point ya, 6 point to be ya yang perlu diperhatikan bagaimana untuk menjadi PhD ya. Yang pertama itu paling penting ya, yang berkaitan dengan bahwa riset itu riset Anda. Ya. Riset itu riset Anda. Jangan sekali-sekali berpikir minta ide riset dari supervisor. Jadi bagusnya saya apa ini, Pak? Nah, itu udah tidak tepat. Karena menulis itu adalah membangun justifikasi terhadap apa yang kita sampaikan. Ya, makanya riset itu adalah menjustifikasi apa yang kita mau tulis. Nah, untuk membangun justifikasi itu ya harus dibangun sendiri. Tidak mungkin justifikasinya dibangun oleh supervisornya. Tidak mungkin. Makanya motivasi untuk membangun ide riset harus ada dulu. Saya mau riset tentang ini. Perkuat. Yang penting selalu terjustifikasi. Ini saya rasa poin paling utama untuk menjadi PhD. Dan disampaikan oleh Prof. Nolila, sangat berbeda master dengan PhD. Ya, sangat berbeda. Jadi bukan berarti masternya percuma ya, bukan. Tapi itu bagian dari sebuah proses. Ya, tapi proses terbesarnya sebenarnya adalah di PhD sebagai seorang akademisi. Ya, kalau saya waktu kuliah saya katakan kalau master itu penguasaan metode. Kuasai metodenya. Teknik apa? Anda master dalam metode tertentu yang Anda pilih. PhD bukan soal mastering metode. Ada sesuatu yang lain. Nah, yang lainnya itu adalah persoalan critical thinking terhadap pengetahuan. Anda membangun critical thinking terhadap pengetahuan. Itu aja yang saya mau garis bawahi. Ya, itu saya rasa penting untuk bisa dipahami dan sama dengan saya. Ya, saya pernah cerita juga adalah waktu saya S2, S3, saya lebih banyak sendiri dibandingkan dengan pembimbing. Saya katakan sama mahasiswa saya. Dan kelihatannya memang ada sense or supervisor lebih suka dengan student yang independen. Tapi bukan berarti nanti udah selesai baru diserahkan, enggak. Proses untuk menyampaikan progres tetap dilakukan. Sehingga supervisor tahu kita on the track or not on the track. Itu saja. Saya nak. Bagaimana supervisor mengetahui kita on the track. Saat ada seminar, kita sampaikan. Saat ada kolokium, kita sampaikan. Supervisor tahu progres kita. Ya kan? Jadi saya katakan sama mahasiswa saya, waktu saya terakhir menulis disertasi, dia tidak mau terima. Saya harus pulang dan saya berpikir sendiri lagi. 8 bulan baru saya bisa mendapatkan garis lurusnya, baru saya serahkan dan baru dia bilang, ya silahkan pulang lagi, balik lagi, lanjutkan. Tapi prosesnya memang proses kesendirian. Tapi kesendirian dalam proses apa diawasi begitu ya. Oke, itu aja. Lanjutkan.
Lanjutkan. Tapi sebelum saya lanjutkan ke next part, ada soalan ke? Enggak perlu. Anda yang mau? Oh, ada ni, ada yang raise hand. Elsa Maya. Okey, Elsa Maya. Ke saya tutup saya punya ni.
Okay, thank you for the opportunities, ma'am. Here, I'm Elsa Maya, a master student in Pasca Sarjana UNAN. As you said before that writing is difficult, especially for me as a civil servant who work in government and not in academic writing. So here I hear before that you said PhD by coursework. This is how the procedure to get PhD by coursework, and what are we doing in that time, and did we have to do publishing too or not? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Elsa. Actually, when you talk about PhD by coursework, is what we call as DBA lah, Doctoral in Business Admin, but not for other. At the moment, we do not have a DBA. I mean, by coursework, PhD by coursework for the other programs. Only at the moment in UPM we have DBA, Doctor in Business Administration, and then of course I'm not really familiar with this lah. But normally. For this kind of PhD, whether by coursework or not, of course, publication is one of the things that you need to fulfill. And then, of course, for DBA, I think they also need to do dissertation, but it's just that the dissertation is not as research project is not as serious or detailed like what you do for your PhD by research. Okay, so this is the things that happening now when we talk about, and then of course, I mean, we also have what we call as doctorate in apa ya, saya lupa. Cuma it's just that we have like you work in your area and then you do your PhD regarding to your working area, your experience in your work environment. Apa dipanggil ya, saya lupa. Tapi di Doctor in not DBA. But we have that, I forgot the name. But of course, I mean, actually the thesis is more focused like case study. But of course, I mean, the other requirement is still need to follow the normal PhD requirement students lah. Okay. So, yeah. Okay, tadi siapa, Maya?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, if there is no more question, maybe I proceed to the next part. Saya tak perasan, saya cakap lama rupanya, Prof. Okay, so for the next part, kenapa dia tak boleh ni? Okay, so now we going to the more serious one. Okay, the first one tadi serious juga, but of course, I mean, academic writing, we want to know how to publish. I think, of course, Prof. Rudy already, I mean, always discuss with you about academic writing. So, of course, I mean, the first thing that need to think about when we talk about academic writing is where to publish. Okay, rasanya bila saya bersembang dengan Prof. Rudy pun di Indonesia sekarang pun minimum Scopus ya. Kalau dulu, actually, I have experience with my students. She's graduated for master in 2018. During that time, as long as non-citation index journal pun already accepted for your part of your requirement for you to graduate lah. And then there's one time, okay, my master student, and then she already finished Viva Voce, and then she want to publish really quickly. I told her, okay, you can send to not very good journal. Okay, but sometimes actually not very good journal citation quite high because it's open access and then easy for everyone to cite, isn't it? And then normally what I did with my student, okay, I said, okay, you can publish here. Okay, maybe you need to pay around like 300 ringgit Malaysia, around 1 million rupiah. Okay, you go there and publish, and then of course normally journal like this within 1 month already accepted. Within 1 month, okay, already accepted. But I told her you have to pay your own money. If you want to get back your money, meaning that I pay back to her, you have to publish in one good journal, at least Scopus. so I can give back your money. So this is normally what I did with my student. But last time we can do that lah, because there's no restriction that you need to publish in Scopus. But so this is among the things when we want to help the students to make sure they're able to graduate on time. I mean, to get the conversation once they have the Viva, and then they're able to get the Senate approval letter as soon as possible. Because normally the student need to have the letter for they to go back to work and something. Okay, so of course, I mean, where to publish is the things that you need to think. But of course, now with the minimal requirement, for example, in Yunnan, to publish in Scopus, so whether you like it or not, you have to go for the minimum Scopus. But normally for the supervisor, we will ask the student to go for the JCR journal, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. But normally I ask my student, if go to Q1 and then get rejected, okay, you go to Q2, got rejected, you go to Q3. So this is the process normally, because we also do not want the student to wait for so long, okay? To wait for so long. Because for example, like the picture I showed just now, Farhana, because after, actually we already start to publish early. Okay, during her third year, once she get all the data while preparing her thesis, we already submit for publication. But I don't know why her luck is not very good. Okay, we submit, got rejected. We submit, got rejected. Until, I mean, like 3-4 times got rejected, 3 times for that one article, 3 times. And then she already like very frustrated. And then she told me, doctor, how I can do this, because I need to go back and work. But luckily, after we put much more effort, and then she able to get to publication. Okay. But of course, I mean, during her time pun, the Scopus is not really minimal requirement. But of course, I mean, we go for a good journal as well as citation index journal, even though it's not Scopus. Okay. But of course, I mean, this is basically, we need to, of course, I mean, level difficulty, for example, book chapter, conference, non-index journal, and then index journal. And then index journal, of course, we have so many types of index journal. For example, the normal one, and then for Malaysian level. But in UPM, for example, we have one in Malaysia, My Journal index. So that one also can be accepted for students to graduate lah, beside Scopus and JCR. And then, for example, like my current student from Bangladesh, Sabush, okay, because he already submitted his thesis, so we plan to have his Viva in this coming December. So that's one article, still waiting. After nearly, I think we already submitted more than 6 months, 2+1. And then I asked him, and then she asked me, Prof, what about my article? Okay, so you can email them, ask about the status. And then, but still when we got the reply, they said still in the reviewing process. Whether accepted or not, we still don't know. And then the other articles, we submit to some journals and then get rejected. And then they offer, or they suggested to us to publish as a book chapter. And then that book chapter is basically published by UPM. And then when we asked with the graduate school, they said that published by UPM can be accepted as one of the requirement for the graduation requirement. So I said, never mind, we just, because he also want, because when he go back, he's the officer at the Department of Marketing in Bangladesh. So he want to, as long as he finish his study and then fulfill all the requirement, at least he can get the Senate letter. So that's why, I mean, he keeps pushing for that publication. So I said, never mind, as long as, because for me as a lecturer, I also got some KPIs lah from the book chapter. But of course, I mean, for JCR journal, especially Q1, is much more to lah, because in UPM, Q1 articles equal to 2 publication. So meaning that if I, let's say I get one Q1, so I only need to think about one more article lah. But normally for associate professor, we have to publish 3 articles minimum per year. For senior lecturer, 2. For professor, 4 or 5, I can't remember. Okay, so this is basically our basic requirement. It's just that now, even for KPI pun, they keep changing. So last time, I mean, but for publication, it's maintained. It's just that for research, because last time, you have to have like a certain amount of money. But now they combine together with publication. If let's say you able to publish more, even though you have no research money, so you still able to get that 20% or 30% that you claim. Okay, so this is something. But of course, I mean, the most, now we are looking at JCR lah. Because if you go to Scopus and then you saw that Simango, normally we doesn't really Simango. Actually, we do not really look at that lah. Okay, that one still not to compared to JCR ranking. So of course, I mean, JCR is the official source to find a journal's impact factor. Like in UPM, our RMC, Research Management Center, they already come up with the list, okay, for the JCR journal, for ESCI, and then for science, and then for non-science. So normally we will be referred to that list lah for us to find a good journal. Okay, so here he put that JCR help to compare journals, find the most frequently cited journals, as well as find the highest impact journals in your field. Normally we will try to find journals or that related to our field. Okay, so now when we talk about composition of a paper, I think all the students here now know about this. But of course, I mean, when we talk about manuscript submission, so this is among the things that we need to do lah. Okay, the title and authorship. And then when we talk about authorship, normally the student will be the first author. And then the supervisor will be the corresponding author. Normally like that, isn't it, Prof? But of course, I mean, like for master student, normally they only required to publish one article. And then when they go back, and then normally we make like an agreement. Okay, so that next article, the supervisor will be the first author as well as tu lah. Because, and then normally if the students not involved in academic, and then they already go back, and then we put more effort to do the publication. Normally I put my name as the first author as well as the corresponding. But if the students in the academic at the university, normally we do not do that lah, because they also need that article for their promotion and so on. But this is arrangement between supervisor and the students related to authorship. Okay. But of course, I mean, there are also, make sure this authorship things doesn't make like an issue with you and supervisor. Okay, because there are also certain issues when we talk about authorship, especially for the students who come from the university. But normally, I mean, for my student, I will give them as the first author if they come to the university. For PhD, of course, I mean, minimum 2. And then if you are from the university and then you still put effort to publish the article, normally I will let them to, yeah. Okay. Yeah, corresponding. Because for our KPI pun, corresponding is also equal to as first author. It's just that now in Scopus, if you go to Scopus nowadays, they also put so many other information, kan, Prof? They put there how many your name as first author. They do not consider as the corresponding. I say, oh, not so many people my name as first author in Scopus. So I need to publish more, put my first name. Okay, my first name. Because now in Scopus, they have lots of other criteria that they included that can be seen. Okay. And then of course we need to have abstract, that's normal. Okay. Keywords, highlight, introduction, methodology, result and discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, and references. So of course, I mean, this is the typical composition of a journal article. And then everything, of course, I mean, depends on that specific journal that you plan to submit to. Okay. This is just the normal one. And then when we talk about title and abstract, okay, I'm not going to go into details with this. Okay, so of course, I mean, the title must be catchy. There's one article from UPM. Of course, I mean, this guy from the, we call it IPSAS, Institute of Social Science Studies, something like that. Institute of Social Science Study, UPM. This one guy, he's very good in publication. There's one article, because I remember, because it's very, very catchy. The title like mirror, mirror, on the wall, who's the not prettiest of all, but something related to his field. But he used mirror, mirror in the title. Maybe you can search later. I forgot, but it's really catchy lah. And then of course, I mean, that paper was published in, I think, quite good journal as well. Okay. And then of course, even though it's catchy, it should also reflect the content of the article. Okay. And then of course, it should avoid too lengthy title. Even for your thesis pun in UPM, for thesis title for maximum 21 words, if I'm not mistaken. In Yunan, how many words, Prof, for thesis title? In UPM, 21 maximum. Oh, don't have that yet. Okay. In UPM, we have that. Itulah. So maximum 21. Oh, no. Oh, the pages, the wording. No. Oh, okay. Still open, free. Okay, in UPM, we have rules and regulation for all that. Okay. And then, of course, I mean, this is related to title, because sometimes when we do the searching, okay, so the title will capture what we want to see. So that's why, I mean, your title must be catchy and then reflect the content as well as not too lengthy. So that's about the title. And then when we talk about abstract, normally, even for us, when we search for information for journal articles, we look at the abstract, isn't it? And then that's why I say abstract should be short and concise. Short and concise, of course, depend to the journal, because some journals want 250 words. Some journal allow until 400. Some journal need only 150. So depends. I mean, of course, but it's good if you able to go it for short and concise. And then should be informative, attractive, and effective. So that's why normally for abstract must have introduction, and then you include a little bit of problem, and then objective, methodology, and then your findings and some conclusion and recommendation. Okay, so this is basically the normal what we need to include in our abstract. So whether we like it or not, this is what we have to include. But some journal they already put the subtitle. Okay, need to include this, need include that. So you have to follow lah. But that's normally that's the thing that must be included. And then of course, abstract must be encouraged reading for the entire paper, meaning that you read the abstract and then make sure the readers want to read the entire article from your abstract. Okay, next, introduction. Normally, introduction in journal articles, literature review, for most of the journal, normally they do not have literature review section. They combine together with introduction. But some journals, they have separate section for literature review. But normally, just together with introduction, most of the journal. And then, of course, when you talk about introduction, should describe the problem and why the problem is important. So this is what can attract the readers to read your articles. And then, of course, you need to cite some of the related works which has been carried out. And then state specifically how the problem is handled in the paper, the purpose, and then originality and novelty. So this is normally during the Viva session that the question will ask to you. So what is the novelty of your research? So this is what you need to prepare, whether you come up with the new dimension, with the new framework, new findings. But of course, I mean, this is the things that related to the novelty of your thesis. And then of course, for the paper, for the articles, they're also looking at that, originality or novelty of the research. And then stating how the papers goes beyond past research, because normally when we talk to students, in journal articles, we have future research, isn't it? And then, of course, this is also related to how your research goes beyond what has been done in the previous, okay? And then the readers need to be told how the paper relates to past research, as well as never expect the reviewer to figure out what is original from your article. So that's why you need to be specific and then tell what is the goodness of your article from the introduction, so the reviewer able to capture all that and then willing to accept your article. Okay, so introduction is very important as well. Okay, so because from introduction, sometimes they can whether they want to stop there, the reviewer, so do not want to review more and reject your articles, and then or maybe they want to go to the next one. And then of course, beside introduction, methodology is very important. Okay, so of course they said more rigorous and original theory section are required. Good theory is necessary to specify the empirical model. And then paper must argue the superiority of the selected approach. It's just that, of course, for journal article methodology part is not as crucial in your thesis. Okay, but of course, I mean, even though it's not so much detail, but it must be able to capture the reviewer attention to make sure that your methodology that you, but I can see that normally paper using, now the trend is about choice experiment. Just is because my friend who do on choice experiment, I can see that her paper can be easily accepted. And then of course, I mean, PLS SEM, structured equation modeling. So this is almost also the method that can be easily, SEM. Okay. And then, so because when you, sometimes the reviewer want to see the, what we call it as, not really uniqueness, tapi macam the extra of the methods used. Okay, normally if you using the normal, I mean like factor analysis, chi-square, so not. I mean, sometimes they also produce good input, good output, not input, good output. But sometimes at the reviewing level, they want to have much more apa kita kata ya, method yang lagi sophisticated lah. Yang baru apa semua tu kan. Okay, that's why. So dia kata, but of course, I mean, everything must be clear when we talk about method. Dia kata data analysis, enough information should be provided that someone could duplicate the results. Okay, so methodology, of course, I mean, this is where you need to be critical lah and then understand better, especially if you are doing on economics. So the mathematical model is much, you must understand the method that you are using. Okay. Okay, the next part is about results and discussion. So of course, when we talk about result and discussion, must be structured. Okay, main finding from the analysis. So main finding normally according to our objective of the research article. And then of course, we need to compare the result with the previous work from differ, which is differ or unexpected from the previous finding. If let's say you got the findings different from what has been found before, so of course you need to give your justification. Doesn't mean that your finding is not good enough. Okay, so it's just that you need, because sometimes I told my student, if let's say the findings from other country, they have different findings, and then yours is different from what have been, because you in the, your respondents is different. Okay, your study in your country or in your area different from the one that already been done in the European countries. Even though you're using the same model, for example, with some improvements, so of course the result will be different because their respondents or their participants in that research is different. The knowledge is different, everything is different. So don't really scare if you got different result, because some students sometimes they want to make sure, Prof, they got the same result as the previous study because they do not have to justify a lot, isn't it? Because if you have different result, the justification must be well justified, so that why you got different result. Okay, and then you got to explain what is new and then cite appropriate references whenever necessary. Text should interpret the tables and should definitely not just repeat what is in the tables. I always told my student, especially in thesis, they put the table but no discussion about the table. I say, how come you let your readers read on their own? Once you put figures or table in your thesis or in your article, you have to explain about that. But of course, I mean, do not not just repeat what is in the table. So of course, you need to rephrase or rewords what you want to say to explain about that table or that figures. And then a table should be sufficiently self-explanatory that it could be understood by itself. Of course, I mean, we try our best to make sure that when the reader look at our table, they can easily understood, but doesn't mean that we do not have to explain. Okay, because not everybody able to read from the tables. Of course, I mean, for the people related to the area, they can easily understood, but not for the people from different area, because normally we want to make sure that whatever that we share can be easily understood by everyone. And then I put the note here, it is advisable to cite some articles from that target journal, meaning that let's say you plan to submit to Agraris. Everyone familiar with Agraris from Muhammadiyah University? It's already Scopus. I'm not sure whether it's already JCR or not, but Scopus is confirmed lah. Last time it's easy to submit to Agraris, but nowadays seems they got their Scopus, Prof. Normally easy to get rejected from them. Okay, so this is for example, if let's say we plan to submit to Agraris, make sure you cite few articles from Agraris. Actually, it's not like something compulsory, but it is good if you can do that lah. Kita stop sekejap. Kita stop sekejap macam mana? Kita stop sekejap ya to menghormati azan. Dah lambat ni. Okay, so kita sambung our discussion. So of course, I mean, saya stop tadi, saya kata it's good if we can cite few articles from the targeted journal. Macam tadi saya beri contoh agraris kan, kalau mau submit di agraris, so at least you cite 3-5 papers related to what you have doing, okay, from that journal from that journal. So it's good. Normally, I mean, of course, this is non-spoken rules, okay, but it's good to do that. Normally, this is what I told my student because I get this tip from one of my colleague, and then she get this tip from her supervisor, I think. So this is among some unspoken rules lah when we think about submitting a journal articles. But I said, oh, it makes sense lah because sometimes the journal when they receive a paper, of course they want to see because all the journals normally they want people to cite their journal from their articles from their journal because they also want that this also can increase the ranking of their journal. Okay, so that's why it's good for us to do that. Okay. And then of course, next, the last part of the paper is conclusion. Conclusion, of course, is the major findings. Okay, you need to talk about what are the major findings from your work. And then of course, you also need include some related to future work from your findings. And then topics for further research may be suggested. It's not compulsory, but it's good if you able, but of course, like I said earlier, it depends on the structure of the journal that you plan to submit to. Because some journal articles, they already have their subtopic to be included in their articles, but some very common, very general. So depends according to that journal requirement. So you can do that. And then of course, some journals you need to include acknowledgement, some about work related, who do this, who do that, okay, conflict of interest and so on. So this is basically according to that journal articles requirement. So you just follow through lah, okay? And then of course, normally the journal, they will give template for their journal. So normally you need to follow exactly the template for you to make sure that no rejection due to formatting, because some of journals they can reject because they receive a lot of paper. Normally for Scopus journal, they going to easily receive paper, prof, because now even Indonesia, Malaysia, everywhere we are talking about Scopus. And then sometimes for Scopus, me myself, we try to find not so much expensive because for university, of course, I mean in UPM, we will given like up to 8,000 ringgit for Q1 journal, Q1, Q2, 8,000 ringgit. But of course, I mean, not always we able to get that. And then for normal Miss Corpus, we can get up to 1,000 ringgit. But 1,000 ringgit is not that much, isn't it? So that's why normally for me, when my student look for journal, so we try to get the free one. Okay, but if not, I said maximum 2,000 ringgit. If let's say we have to pay on our own, because now it's not easy to get money. And then of course in UPM pun we have the minimum number for us to get university money. Or unless you get research grant, but research grant pun, of course, there's a lot of requirement needed that must to be fulfilled. So sometimes we just use our own money. And then for PhD student, normally I told them split 50-50. 1,000, 2,000 ringgit, you 1,000, I 1,000. Because you're the first author, I'm the corresponding author. So this is what I've been practices with my student. Like if let's say the student do not have any research funding, but if let's say you have research funding, easy. Okay, but no research funding, normally this is what I did with my student, 50-50, whether you like it or not. Okay, because the student also need the publication. I as a the lecturer also need KPI. So do not want to make burden to each of us. So this is what our arrangement. Okay, this is other tips. Okay, so other tips. The first one, the paper should look like papers already published in the journal to which it is intended to be submitted, meaning that you have to follow the format, the requirement of the journal. And then, of course, organization of the paper, a reviewer may recommend rejection simply because the paper would take too much work. Okay, too much work, error here and there, and then the sequence is not there. So they feeling like once they read your abstract, it's already haywire here and there, here and there. And then methodology, methodology not detail pun they also. So that's why organization of paper is very important. Okay, and then the paper should effectively communicate the results to others. And then this is why we need to have cover letter. Normally cover letter must be really precise and able to tell about why they need to receive our paper. But even though sometimes it's not enough, even though we write so good for cover letter, okay? and then comply with the suggestion given by reviewers, because sometimes we said that why he comment like this, but whether we like it or not, we have to follow. Yeah, sama lah during your viva voce. Even though the examiners suggestion, unless the suggestion is not really like suitable, relevant. For example, like my case, okay? In Australia, we do not have viva voce during my time. Prof, you ada viva ke? In your university, tak ada kan? In Australia, during that time, we do not have viva voce. As a student during that time, I feel very happy because I don't have to to be to justify, to be answered, to be asked question during the session. So I feel, oh, very good, very good. But it's not good at all actually, because the thesis must be able to speak itself. Okay, for example, like my case, one of my examiner from Philippines, and then another examiner from the UK. And then the examiner from Philippines give me A. We have grade in 13. Okay. A. And then the examiner from UK give me C, Prof. Because he said that my thesis must have like, I have to do benchmarking studies. And then benchmarking study is not easy to do that. And then if I'm able, if I must comply to that suggestion, I need to extend again I need to get extra extra data, okay, to do that. And then once my supervisor, because he know the examiner, and then he told me he met the examiner at one of the conference or something, and then he explained to the examiner that this benchmarking studies not relevant to my studies, and then he explained blah blah blah, and then so I put in my report this no, because so this is basically something is not good when you do not have viva voce. Of course, during that time I feel happy. I don't have to because viva voce is something which is very scary. Okay. But now as an examiner, as a lecturer, I feel like, oh, okay, I enjoy to have this examination session. But during that time, as a student, during that time, I feel like, okay, what a relief not to have a viva voce. But due to that incident, I feel like, oh, it's not really good. That's why my supervisor during that time, Prof, when we plan to submit, he not really satisfied with the thesis. Okay, he keep, I do the correction and then he give back to me. I do correction, he give back to me, because he want the thesis to be able to speak itself. But still, when we submit to the examiner have different ideas about the thesis. So I cannot get the letter from the rector, because if you get A, both from the examiner, my friend got that letter certificate, because she got A for both, from both external examiners, from the examiners of her thesis. Like me, my case, I do not get this, because I got A and C. So this is basically the something which is not good when you do not have viva. Okay, so because viva actually for you to be able to defend your work, because not everything suggested by the examiner is correct. So that's why your justification is very important during the viva voce, as what in the paper as well. But normally, even for journal article pun, if you do not really agree with what the reviewer to you, you can justify. As long as your justification is good enough and then able to be accepted by the reviewer. But normally in my case, for a journal article, normally we try our best to fulfill the reviewer requirements lah, the suggestion given by reviewer, unless it's doesn't something that really do not make sense, and then maybe give us extra work to do. So normally we try to give justification. Okay, and then of course, if the comments are beyond the scope of the paper, then explain. So like I said just now lah, explain why what the reviewer asked was not done. Okay, so you can say that, you can do that. And then of course you also need to show appreciation to the reviewers during when you give like, normally we have to give like what we call it, the corrections form, isn't it? So say something good when you do that. Okay, and then last one, so this is, I think, the most important tips. Okay, don't give up easily to face acceptance or rejection. Why I say acceptance pun, you have to not give up, as I told about my student Farhana just now, because we send paper, and then of course that one about rejection, she facing rejection. But the other student, there's one student from Afghanistan, the paper, they told us that the paper is accepted since 2022, if I'm not mistaken. They said the paper is accepted, blah, blah, blah. But we did not receive anything from the journal. Okay, after we do that, and then my student keep asking me. Luckily, he already published one articles, and then that's basically the second one. And I said, Doctor, do we want to email the journal to take back our articles? I said, no need, just wait. Because when I look at the acceptance rate of that journal, normally 2 years. So I said, never mind, we just wait. We be patient. Because when I look at the trend of that, the acceptance rate of that, the published, I mean, from the accepted until published, very long. So I said, never mind, just wait. So the paper was accepted, I think, after 2 years. So published online. Okay. So that's why I put, don't give up easily to face acceptance and rejection. So this is what I mean by this. Okay. Example of rejection. So this is all the email received by me lah. Okay. This one in September 2025. Just recently, last month. Okay. So this student, Aziza, I think this is Aziza's paper. Aziza is a student from Gajah Mada. So she's a very good student. And then always joking with my friend, good student also tired because she keep coming. Doctor, I already finished this. I already finished it. And then she keep giving me a manuscript, Prof. Because she's now in her 5th semester, but she's already, I mean, this semester, she will be giving her final exit seminar. So she already did her proposal in 2nd semester. And then in 4th semester, she's giving her progress because she finished her data collection while in her 4th semester. And then now 5th semester, she will giving her exit. And then we plan for her to submit her thesis in her 6th semester, next semester. Okay. So that's our planning lah. So we target she will be able to submit her thesis by May or June next year. Okay, so that will be her 6th semester. And then we plan for her to get everything ready by 7th semester. Okay, because it's not easy for me as a supervisor to get student who able to graduate on time. Normally, for PhD, 7th semester, it's not 7, 9 or 10 semester. It's not easy because we are talking about until you get the Senate letter. So Senate letter is not easy. I mean, to fulfill the requirements. So that's why at the moment, she already sent two or three journal articles. Okay. Okay, so this is example. Okay, decision on your manuscript to organic agriculture. I think this one Q2 or Q1. Okay, she said that we have carefully examined your manuscript. We regret that based on our screening, we are unable to publish your manuscript. Currently, the journal is receiving a very large number of manuscripts. We publish a very small proportion of this each year. Given the low acceptance rate, we reject some articles without sending them out for review. Meaning that this is the rejection by the editor, okay, not to by the reviewer. So dia kata the majority of those that we reject are capably executed and make some contribution to knowledge. However, in the editor's judgment, the relevance to the target audience and or scientific is not sufficient to justify publication in organic agriculture. Because Aziza doing something related to continuous intention in organic farming in Indonesia. Okay, so this is among the things that we need to face, okay, when we do publication. And then of course, the other one is my other student, okay. So he sent to this Botanica Journal of Social Science and Humanities. I think this one also Q4, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So he said here, so this is the student example I gave just now. So he suggested for this article to be published in chapter in book, published by UPM Press. So I said, never mind, because the student also, I mean, do not want to face any more rejection. So I said, never mind, as long as it part of your can fulfill your graduation's requirements. So I think it's okay for you to submit as a book chapter, even though the what we call it the ranking is lower, as I showed just now, where to publish book chapter is the lowest, isn't it? But of course, I mean, when we talk about book of chapter, the credibility of the publisher is also need to be taken into consideration lah. Okay. Okay, so this one July, rejected July, and then we submit. I think the book chapter will be published by December this year. Okay. Okay, so this is the example of publication. Example of publication. So this one, these two journal articles on your left side. So both papers is from Scopus journal articles. Okay. So this one, consumer preferences and willingness to pay for traceability system in purchasing meat and meat products. So this is from Master Research. Okay. So this is the example I give just now. I put my name there as the first author because this student, yeah, finished already and then she already fulfilled the requirement for graduation. And then she already going back. So I'm the one who, did everything for this journal article. So that's why I put my name there. Okay. And then if you look at the article history, you can see that they received my articles in August 2021. Okay. And then received in revised form September 2021, but accepted February 2022, but available online in 2023. So this is what I mean by you have to be patient for acceptance. Even for the next one pun, in Agraris, submitted January 25th, but accepted March 2024. So also more than a year. Okay. And then of course for this one, International Food Research Journal. So this one is Q4. So this one also published by UPM, by one of the faculty in UPM Prof. So you can publish here as well. International Food Research Journal is Q4 in JCR. So this one from my master student. So she's doing something on consumers' preferences on goat milks based on sensory attributes. So if you look at the article history here, received 9 June 2020 and then accepted November 2021. So also more than a year. So this is a mandatory. So that's why if you plan to finish on time, graduate on time, so do not wait until you settle everything, finish your thesis, everything, and then start thinking about publication. So while doing your writing, so you also need to do your manuscript. So this is what I'm doing with my student. Even though we did this, but still, sometimes it's not easy because this one is about accepted, okay, more than a year. But before we come to this one, it's already been rejected by the other journal articles few times already. So this is among the things, the reality when we talk about publication while doing your PhD or master study. So it's not an easy thing to do, but whether we like it or not, we have to do it because it's already become the requirement of the university. Okay? Oh, lambat keluar. Oh, baru keluar. Okay, so this is example of 2 Scopus articles and then 1 JCR Q4. And then of course, for me, I'm still trying to go towards Q1 and Q2 as a corresponding author or first author. At the moment, of course, I have Q1, Q2 journals with the other with the other authors, but just a member, co-authors. But I'm planning, of course, to get the professorship, as you mentioned just now, in UPM at the moment. One of the criteria, we have to have 2 or 3 Q1 or Q2 journal articles. So at the moment, as the corresponding of first author, Prof. So at the moment, I do not have that. So that's why I'm still waiting to go for my professorship. Because sometimes when we talk about getting promotion, it's also luck as well. Okay, beside networking or something, I do not know. But of course, to fulfill all the requirement is not easy. And then this is basically some of the things when we talk about academic, okay, for those who are in the academic line. So this is some of the things that you need to think because the academic landscape is keep changing very, very, very fast. Okay. So with that, thank you very much. Okay. For listening to my session. So maybe before I start, yeah, question. You can give comment, suggestion as well.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Good afternoon. Very interesting topic, Ibu Dr. Nurlila. My questions about when you talk about the important things about the GOT, graduate on time. In my mind, this maybe graduate on the right time. Then it's very, very relative. However, I would like to know about would you share about the popular topic in the development studies at UPM, or what is the popular topic in the students or PhD student at there? and why that topic is very popular, something like that. Will you
Okay.
share that?
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much for the question. Actually, because my area of expertise is not on the development studies, but of course, I co-authors in some of the topics related to development with the other colleagues. When we talk about development studies, I think the one that gender equality, gender inequality is one of the things at the moment, because of course, the student that I co-supervise, she's also from Indonesia, and then she looks at the gender inequality, and then of course rural development, apa tadi development, rural, rural development, and then there's other one student, she's doing something related to the migration of people from the rural to the urban area, and then this is among the things lah that we are doing now in UPM, and then of course there's a lot related to, of course, as we discussed this morning, so this topic is one of the things as well lah. And then in UPM nowadays, we are talking about urban farming. Okay, urban farming. Of course, you are talking about rural development, but of course, urban farming is the thing that also about human development. Okay, so urban farming is something which is also being doing well nowadays. And then what else? Apa lagi, Prof? Human development and rural development. Yeah, I think that's some of it. Yeah. Okay.
Ya, saya sedikit memberi penekanan ya bahwa publikasi ya sesuatu yang harus dipikirkan sejak awal studi. Karena memang dia require ya awal studi. Nah, untuk bisa got tadi ya on the right times. Misalnya riset proposalnya sudah disetujui, ada 3 tujuan, jangan sampai selesai dulu ke semua tujuan, baru mau menulis untuk publikasi. Nah ini yang ya saya masih ke lapangan, masih tujuan ketiga belum selesai, not finished yet. I can write anything. No, ya you should try to really make the difference between one objective and another objective, then you can publish each objective or one article. That's good. So since the first objective is done already, you need to try to write what did you find from the first objective and submit it. Ya, jangan menunggu selesai research sudah semuanya baru mau menulis, nanti tambah lama. Ya, jadi nanti tesisnya selesai, juga sudah selesai. Ya, jadi bisa saja di tujuan ketiga belum publikasi. Nanti biar dilanjutkan oleh profesornya untuk mempublikasikan. Begitu. Bisa saja kalau Anda bukan akademisi, Anda bisa tolong saja, Pak, tujuan 1 sudah selesai, sudah ada di disertasi, silakan Bapak publikasikan sebagai author, bisa. Ya, karena dia yang menuliskan lagi selanjutnya. Saya biarlah jadi co-author. Tapi kalau Anda akademisi, ya silakan. Yang tujuan ketiga yang terakhir ini juga ditulis sendiri, diperbaiki sendiri sebagai first author. Silakan juga. Ya. Nah, itu triknya. Ya, jangan berpikir selesai semuanya dulu baru mau menulis publikasi. Dulu orang riset disertasinya selesai, baru publikasi. Sehingga submitted aja sudah minta ujian. Nah, boleh submission saja nanti ujian. Kalau sekarang nggak bisa lagi, minimal accepted. Nah, sometimes accepted also harusnya accepted ijazahnya harusnya begitu. Di UPM mungkin maybe like that. If you are graduate while your article is only accepted, you cannot take your certificate until this. Sometime like that. Harusnya begitu, karena belum tentu accepted juga. Tapi kalau ternyata 2 tahun belum juga publish, ya berserah aja lagi jadinya. Sudah lah. Ya udah bagaimana lagi, memang terlalu lama. Biasa seperti itu. Tapi itu dulu, kalau makanya harus lebih baik strateginya gitu. Buatlah tujuan penelitian yang memang bisa distrategikan, sudah mulai publikasi sejak selesai tujuan pertamanya. Ya, oke, itu saja tip and triknya. Ya, waktu membatasi kita sudah jam 4. Nanti penutupan di conference katanya jam 4:10. We'll finish also the closing at 4:10. We would like to thanks to Dr. Nolila for this very fruitful presentation for the student to increase and correct their spirit for their study and publication. Thank you very much. Saya tidak memberikan banyak komen lagi waktu. Saya tutup. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Selanjutnya kita mau serahkan sertifikat. Mungkin kita bisa minta tolong Pak Wakil Direktur lah menyerahkan sertifikatnya kepada Bu Nolila.
Oh, foto bersama. Sama ke yang online juga? Iya, Pak. Boleh foto bersama. Sudah.
Cek di sana udah selesai belum?